White versus Lewison. Two big boys. Who's your money on? I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. Welcome to the show. I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. In today's show, we're talking about the massive heavyweight clash here in the UK between DILLIAN WHYTE and Ian Lewison. Very exciting little domestic clash. But before we crack on with that, I just want to invite you to do a few things. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It's going to be great to have you on board as we proceed in the forthcoming months with all the fights that are potentially going to happen. Okay, if you like this video, click on the thumbs up button. Next, join me in my social media. If you listen to my previous video, you know that I'm just trying to get to grips with that. So it'd be great to try and get people to the social media. If you just go to my YouTube channel, you're going to find all those links. Basically, if you just search Teekosey in Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. Not much going on, but with your help, maybe we can take it somewhere, right? Now, the last thing is, I just want to invite you to watch my previous video. Now, something a little bit different from the previews and breakdowns that I usually do. And this was a video where I spoke about moving up the weight classes in the boxing divisions, the issues, the problems, how I see it. Okay, so it's quite an interesting little video to put together. If you've got a few moments, go over to the channel and check that out. So let's just go back to the fight. Just thought I'd do a quick video on this one because it is a fight that I quite like, right? It's happening today, the 7th of October. Left it a little bit late, but if you listen to my previous video, you know that I'm a busy man. So, DILLIAN WHYTE. Let's just talk about the two guys. DILLIAN WHYTE, big guy, 6'4", around about the 250. He's got an alright record, 18-1. That one coming in the big fight to Anthony Joshua, right? He turned pro in 2011, but he had a 2-year absence for suspension. Since the suspension, he's had 10 fights, okay? So since November 2014, he's fought 10 times. That's very regular, very impressive. He's obviously committed. He wants to make it. He wants to try and do it. So 10 fights in, what is that? Under 2 years, I think. Under 2 years, 10 fights, pretty regular. Most of those guys haven't been quality, but he's been slowly building up, and we know the Anthony Joshua fight, it's started to build a bit of momentum. Now, he had so he's had the 10 fights in the 2 years, but he had a 6-month absence following the Joshua fight, following surgery that he had. Now, in the Anthony Joshua fight, quite an exciting fight, definitely the most exciting fight of Anthony Joshua's career. Now, we're led to believe that the injury that required surgery held DILLIAN WHYTE back. We didn't see 100% of DILLIAN WHYTE in that fight. But despite that, he put Anthony Joshua in trouble. And Anthony Joshua's only been in trouble this one time in his career. And DILLIAN WHYTE put him there. Now, we know the problems that Anthony Joshua has and will have as he moves forward. And DILLIAN WHYTE, for a brief moment, was able to exploit that. He landed them on the button, and Joshua was momentarily in trouble. Whyte wasn't able to capitalise, maybe partly being gassed out, partly the injury partly the fact that he'd already taken a fair amount of damage himself in the first round. And I don't know, it's a difficult one because obviously I believe in the Anthony Joshua fight. Anthony Joshua got very, very emotional. He got very emotional, combined with overconfidence. Sorry, I was trying to think of the word. Overconfidence following that first round. The bizarre kind of end to that round where everyone jumped in the ring. The craziness, and it kind of that was White was able to capitalise on that. Okay, right. He didn't get the win. Obviously, we know he got stopped. Okay. Now, since that fight, he's had two fights. So since that fight, he's had 2 fights this year. Both fights less than convincing, to be honest. First fight, he came back. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I believe that he had another fight. His opponent was pulled out. I can't remember, but and he ended up fighting basically someone who was effectively a cruiserweight, and he managed to stop him. Nothing really was learned. Nothing at all was learned in that fight. The second fight he had just a couple of months ago was against Dave Allen. Now this was very, very, very one-sided. Dave Allen didn't really put up a good effort. He didn't really do himself justice, to be honest. He showed himself to be incredibly durable, very tough, but really he didn't do enough of his own work, didn't show particularly good skill set, and wasn't able to really put White in any serious danger. Now, on the other side, it was a fantastic workout for Dillian White. He worked his socks off. He had to. Wasn't much coming back, but Dave Allen was moving about. He was coming forward, and it was because it was all White. White was perpetually throwing shots. He showed a fantastic range of shots because he was obviously trying to put him out, and he was really varied in the approach that he made, which was positive from White, but really didn't really get Allen in any serious danger whatsoever. Now, Ian Lewison, another fairly interesting character because he's been a pro since 2009, so longer than White. And the fact that White's had a 2-year suspension, his record is only 12-2-1. 12-2-1. So there's been a lot of inactivity throughout his career. He hasn't been able to get fights for whatever reason. I suspect it could be a combination of a few things. He never really seems to be that interested, possibly lacks the motivation, possibly lacks the commitment. I don't know, I'm just speculating. The demeanour, the laid-back approach that he gives in when he talks. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube over the last couple of years where he's been interviewed and he's basically been complaining that he's not getting fights, that he wants to call these guys out. But the problem is that because he hadn't fought for so long, he hadn't really fought anyone of any note. These guys that have a name are not going to want to fight him because the risk to reward is zero. So he really needed to crack on and really just get in the ring, get active. Didn't matter. It doesn't matter who he was fighting. As long as he was winning, he was building a bit of a rep. He would jump up the rankings, and then these guys would start to take note. He obviously was not prepared to do that, and this is the position that he found himself in. Now, Ian Lewison's slightly smaller than Dillian White, maybe a couple of inches in size, but he's a big boy. He's definitely a big boy. Now, when he was fighting more actively, he seems to be weighing around the 245, 260. Since he's come back last year or this year, he's had 2 fights. He's been more around the 270 mark. So he is a big guy. He's never kind of struck me as being in fantastic shape. Less so in the two fights he's had in the recent years. I think that he models his whole style from power, which is never a great thing to do. Okay? If all you've got is power, you're never going to be a great. If you can knock someone out, you can get to the top. This is what I always say about David Price. David Price has that one punch power. He can knock out anyone, full stop. Okay? But because he lacks so many other things, he's going to struggle to get there. But if he's put in a position to be there, just say he wins 1 or 2 fights against average sort of oppositions, and then somehow he gets a world title fight, he could knock someone out and pick up a strap. Okay? So it is possible, but for longevity and credibility, if all you've got is power, you're going to struggle. The greatest knockout artists of all time aren't just power. They had skill. And the fact that they had so much skill and they were able to knock people out in devastating fashion. Right? So Ian Lewison, he fights short. He fights in a kind of a short style, and he pretty much throws power punches relentlessly when he can. As I say, he's only fought 15 times, so his experience is somewhat limited. His experience is somewhat limited, and he has very few rounds. Very few rounds. The most he's ever gone is 4 rounds. I think he's won 1 of them, and a couple of the rounds where he's gone to 3 or 4 rounds, he's lost on points. Okay, he fought in Prize Fighter once, a year that Audie Harrison won, I believe. He won the first round. He lost in a split decision in the second on points. I think generally, as I've kind of tried to imply, Ian Lewison will struggle. Now, moving into this fight, as I say, I think he's going to struggle primarily on fitness. Now, this is what we saw from DILLIAN WHYTE in the Allen fight. He went for the full duration, looked in good nick. He was doing all the work. Whilst he wasn't be able to put Allen away, right? He worked hard. He threw a good duration of punches. He showed relatively good movement, and I think with a good trainer, that's something that White can improve upon. And it may be the case that it's something that he is working on, so the movement is going to improve week and month by month. And I think with Lewison, if you can avoid big shots for 2 rounds, you're going to take Lewison to muddy waters, and he's going to struggle. He's not going to have the engine to keep going, particularly the shape that he's in. I have personally been criticised in the past for talking about the shape of boxers in the heavyweight division, but the fact is that you can be a big boy and be in shape. Okay, I'm not talking about being in the sort of shape that Wilder and Joshua are in, but you've got other guys that are up there, and they're in decent shape. They're in proportion. They're not flabby. Okay. And this can hold back Lewison. But let's be honest, let's be truthful. If Lewison drops a bomb on White, it could be all over. But what I would say is that DILLIAN WHYTE has shown to have a good chin. He's shown to have a good chin. So it will be an interesting one for this fight to see whether White can take Lewison into muddy waters, which I think he will. My actual prediction is that White will stop Lewison in the later rounds. That's what I think is going to happen. The odds for this fight, 1-9 DILLIAN WHYTE to win, 11-2 Lewison. Other odds for this one, that might be interesting are that Ian Lewison to win in the first round, okay, is 66-1. That's an interesting one, because you look at Lewison, he's a knockout specialist. He's going to go all power. He's not going to try and take White into later rounds. He's going to try and take him out early. So the first round, that's where the money is, 66-1. That's where have a cheeky punt on round one, Ian Lewison. But alternatively, I would have thought that Dillian White will win in 8 rounds. I think in 8 rounds, he'll manage to stop Ian Lewison. He'll just gas out. Okay? So, thanks for joining me on this video. If you've got any comments about this matchup between the two guys, whether you think Lewison has more of a chance, whether you think he won't gas out, whether you think that Dillian White is just going to steamroll through him, knock him out, and move on to bigger and better things, because that's what people are thinking. They're thinking that Dillian White, because of the trouble that he put Joshua in, he's one of these guys that will eventually make it to the top. Not quite yet, but he will get other fights. Personally, I thought that he was going to get the rematch with Joshua. Now, obviously, because the Joshua title fight came along, it changed the journey for Anthony Joshua. Okay, but I think Dillian White has the skills to get to the top and cause a lot of people trouble. He just needs to improve on 2 or 3 things. Ian Lewison potentially just a roadblock in the way, which he should be capable of stopping. Obviously, if Ian Lewison wins this, what does that do for Ian Lewison? Personally, I don't think it does a great deal for him. Unfortunately, it's a massive opportunity for him. He becomes the British champ, and he may be able to worm his way into some other fights. In the press conference, they were talking about him going out to Japan again and fighting some other kind of undefeated prospect out there. Obviously, he's going to earn big bucks for that, which is good for him. The money he probably earned from the China fight was very good. But in terms of a career, legacy, winning fights, making a name for himself, he needs to be fighting in the UK and beating the prospects. And if he can beat White, I don't know who he's going to get. I don't know who he will get, but it's possible that he... I don't know. It's so difficult because his name is so low. He's so low on the rung. We'll have to see where it goes. But thanks for joining me. As I say, any questions, get involved. Subscribe to the channel. Leave me some comments. Thumbs up. And remember to check my previous video. Really want to hear from people to see what they think. Thanks very much. I'm Teekosey. This is With Just 15 Defeats.